has a presentation that he has. Let me pull the presentation up if you're ready for that. Are you ready for that, Joseph? Okay. And your time starts. Go ahead.
Um, okay, the presentation we're talking about is called The State of the Orthodox Church in the 20th and 21st Centuries: Truth, Lies, Distortions, and Clarifications. I'm now going to switch to that so that I can fully see it and hopefully give you some background and some understanding. For the most part, this presentation is for the audience. It is not for my opponent. However, my opponent is free to use or learn from it. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is discuss the basics. How does one handle heresy in Orthodoxy? This is something that's fairly uncontroversial and until recently. People begin by complaining when problems show up, when people begin preaching heresy bareheaded. There are usually various interventions that take place, usually between priests versus the bishops, etc. I think we see this in things like the Arian crisis, etc. Once you are dealing with a bishop that is a known heretic, the next step is non-commemoration. I know in World Orthodoxy, the most recent case of this was during the Havana Declaration between Patriarch Kirill and Pope Francis, where a number of seminarians began non-commemoration. That's also kind of where I think a lot of the people who follow this fighting from within movement, that's where you are, whether you realize it or not. You may be commemorating someone. If you are, though, and you're not really not commemorating, then you're just agreeing with them. Then basically the next step is people try to find bishops to reorganize the synod. And once they've done that, then the synod then can act as the Orthodox Church in a local region and declare people heretical, etc. Um, this is Archbishop Chrysostom I of Athens, Papadopoulos. In 1923, shortly before he changed the calendar, he said, "No autocephalous Orthodox Church can separate itself from the rest and accept the new calendar without becoming schismatic in the eyes of others." A year later, he changed the calendar. The Holy Fathers from Athos and priests who dissented from the innovating hierarchy served the increasing numbers of persecuted faithful during the period until Metropolitan Chrysostom of Florina and others came out of retirement and separated to convene a synod in 1935, which then condemned the calendar change. And from here, we're going to get to a discussion of a tale of two orthodoxies, if we will. In Greece, this is from a letter of Father Ephraim, who would later become Metropolitan Ephraim of Hakhny. He wrote, "In Greece, the real power of the old calendar movement became known during the German occupation. Since the official new calendar church no longer had the support of the government because the Nazis had taken over in persecuting the old calendarists, many had died in prison from starvation or ill treatment, the old calendarists spread like wildfire. In Athens alone, they had 500 tiny chapels and churches, with a priest for every one of them. After the war and return of the government, the persecution was resumed and the movement again slackened. So during the time of Hitler, the true Orthodox were actually free. Meanwhile, we celebrate people who didn't help Christians. Then we get to part two here. Basically, this is on the left is a book review. I'm not going to read the whole thing, although they get it wrong. Mother Maria Skotsova actually died of dysentery, not of the gas chambers. They did that to promote her cultus as a saint. Further, what you'll notice, this is about the Paris school, which, hate to bring it up, but Hitler and the Nazis were suspicious that they were Freemasonic liberals. Strangely, Roquefort was also suspicious that they were Freemasonic liberals, mostly because they were Freemasonic liberals. And as you'll notice, the guys on the right who came from the Paris school are well-known authors in your community because they all ended up leading St. Vladimir Seminary's teachings. And Meyerndorf, Schmemann, Lasky, all from the Paris school. So we continue. Romania is just crazy. I mean, you have Miron Cristeu, and that's just a huge mess. As you'll notice, these pictures here on the right, that's an entire village getting arrested for holding to the old calendar. I should mention Patriarch Miron actually wanted to introduce the papal calendar and attempted to, and they were arresting everyone who disagreed. But there's even a point where communists supported the king, so it was a crazy time. But the point is, there were a lot of people being arrested for doing the right thing. Finally, Russia, self-explanatory. Fun fact, if you are over the age of 23, you've been alive longer than the Patriarchate of Moscow has been commemorating the new martyrs. The guy on the right, Patriarch Alexis, literally was brought into existence in his offices and as patriarch simply because of the fact that they needed to fight the Nazis. The guy on the left, St. Joseph of Petrograd, is my name saint and still not on the calendar of the Moscow Patriarchate because he led the Catacomb Church. Well, what do Orthodox Christians do when dealing with heretical hierarchs? They basically, as the canon notes above, they sever themselves from communion with their president because he publicly preaches heresy and with bared head teaches it in the church. Such persons are to be accounted not to canonical penalty, but deemed worthy of honor, for not bishops, but false bishops and false teachers have they condemned, and not fragmented the church's unity with schism, but from schisms and division have they earnestly sought to deliver the church. We know the road core anathema against ecumenism. I hope you all know it. If you don't, please Google it. So, what are you supposed to do when you're dealing with heretical hierarchs? You're supposed to run, not join them. Just in case you didn't get it the first time, you're supposed to run, not pray together with heretics because of the anathema against ecumenism. You're supposed to run, not kiss the Pope's hand. You're definitely not supposed to do this. No, blessing the chrism for a heretical king with some Anglicans, wrong. Just in case you don't believe in the anathema against ecumenism, it's also in the apostolic canons. And here we have bishops lighting menorahs. And finally, one, Laodicea shouldn't join with heretics and schismatics. The guy on the right, this one, should note, however, that this is now a tradition among the ecumenists because of the fact that they're so used to it. They've spent 50 years doing joint prayers with people used to call heretics. But there's an option for you. If you take a look, believe it or not, there are millions of true Orthodox all over the world who are confessing the faith. They're teaching the Orthodox faith you thought you learned. So for 90% of you listening to this podcast, you didn't know who I was, but you did believe in the seven councils, right? You don't believe that the fourth council or the fifth council is up for debate or discussion. You don't believe David Bentley Hart isn't a heretic. You think he might be one. Become true Orthodox. You've made it this far, and we invite you to do so. Thank you.